Hey lovelies, thanks for stopping by my channel today. I am so incredibly excited for today's video. I am going to be sharing with you my ideal New Year's Eve look, and I'm honestly more excited because this is a collab with Colin from Queer Bones. Colin reached out to me a while ago. They are a planner, let me tell you, but they reached out to me a while ago and asked if I would do a collab, and we were sort of kicking around some ideas, and we thought it would be fun to share with you our New Year's Eve looks. I mentioned, I don't know if it was in a video or in my live, but I mentioned that I was going to be very curious to see Colin's video because while we have a similar undertone of skin, we're both more on the golden olive side. Colin is about several shades deeper than me, and it's very interesting because as I've gotten to know them over the years, we have some things that we absolutely both love, but we also have some things that we are very like juxtaposed on. There are some things that it's like they absolutely love it and I've had really not great luck, and vice versa. So I think it's going to be a really interesting mix of products. You know, I know that they prefer to wear some different colors than I do as well. So it's just going to be a really fun take on it. So if you are not following Colin, I will have their video and their Instagram linked down below so that you can check them out. Definitely recommend. I cannot wait to see their video as well. So thanks, Colin, for asking me to do this. So this was a really interesting exercise for me because I feel like my ideal event makeup has really changed over the years. And I was like, you know what, if I was going out, I don't think I am going out for New Year's Eve, by the way. I have a feeling Jeremy and I are going to be staying at home, eating some crab and playing some games. This is what happens when you're 42 and really don't have any friends that live nearby you. Anyway, so if I was going out or going to be around more people than just my partner, I was like, okay, what would be my ideal look? And so today I'm going to be sharing that with you and having fun playing with a few things. And today I'm making a point of using a lot of things that I've had in my collection for a while. Going into the new year, I'm really trying to use a lot of the makeup that I have, you know, use what I have. I do like getting bits and baubles here and there to sort of like keep it fresh in my collection, but I really wanted to focus on using some of the beautiful things that I already own. And of course, I encourage you to do the same, but if anything I use today sort of, you know, blows your skirt up and you're curious to check it out, I will have everything linked down below as well. Now, if we haven't met before, my name is Kelly and I'm a professional hair and makeup artist, and here on my channel, I strive to keep beauty real. Real honest, real relatable, and real fun. So if that sounds like something you'd enjoy, don't forget to click subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on future videos. All right, we're gonna get into this right now. I cannot wait to play and do a New Year's Eve look with you. Who knows, maybe I'm gonna love this so much that I'm gonna be like, you know what, babe, we gotta go out because I need to show this look on New Year's Eve. All right, let's get into it. All right, can I just say that today is the first day in probably 5 days that I have seen sun. I'm loving this. It's fairly gray and blah outside, but there's still more sun than there has been in a while. And I'm probably, Colin's gonna watch this and probably laugh because I know that they've been seeing some gray days too, and they're probably like, Kelly, you ain't seen nothing. But for me, it has been very gray outside, so I'm excited to have some sun. I feel like it's really pepped me up. Maybe it's all the caffeine I've ingested today. Who knows? So just to give you a little lowdown of what I already have on my skin, I cleansed this morning, put on my vitamin C serum, and then the moisturizer that I've been using right now is the First Aid Beauty Ultra Repair Cream. My skin has just been so dry, so that has been helping me through. And that was a while ago. That was at 6:45 and it's now 2 o'clock. So it's been on for a little bit. I could go through with an extra glowy serum over the top just to kind of boost it, but what I thought I would do instead is just hit some of the high points of my face with the Auric Glow Lust. So I am going to use the shade Morganite today. Now this is the original Morganite. So I know that Sam, after the original launch, she made this shade, I think a little lighter and also a little bit cooler in tone. Oftentimes I will take Morganite and I think it's Pyrite that I have and mix the two together to create more of like a neutralized shade. I'm already pale. I feel like winter this year has sucked the life out of me quite early. So I'm even more fair than I usually am by this time of year, but I'm literally just gonna pop this on the high points of my face, not all over. I could do that, but for me on New Year's Eve, especially if I'm gonna be going out, I kind of want to start off like a little less dewy just because I know that I'm gonna end up pretty dewy by the end of the night. I have, you know, normal to dry skin, dry this time of year. So I'll really be interested to see what Colin uses because I know, oh, at least I think I know. I feel like they sort of feel a little bit more oily than I do. I know that they have oily lids, but I I have almost oily nothing, except in the summertime, my T-zone gets kind of crazy. So now that I've kind of placed that, I'm just gonna take a damp beauty sponge and just tap that in. I've sort of been getting into the sponge life again. For a while, that's all I would use, and I got out of it for like years, and now I've been kind of getting back into it again. It's probably just because it is so dry, and I feel like having a damp sponge just sort of like saves my crispy skin a little bit more and makes everything sort of like mesh and meld into the skin. Yeah, so now I feel more juicy skinned. I feel like I drank a lot of water. This is great. You'll notice that I didn't put any right down the center of my forehead, more like the high point of my brow bone. I tend to get pretty shiny right here. Probably could have avoided doing my nose because that tends to get a little bit glowy too, but you know, if there's any time to shine bright, it's gonna be New Year's Eve. So for my foundation today, I'm actually gonna cocktail a mix of the Nars Light Reflecting Foundation and this MAC Studio Water Weight Foundation, mostly just because this one's a little bit lighter. I do love the finish of this one as well, and it's a little less coverage. I'm not really one to wear a lot of coverage on my skin. It's just not what I prefer. Like, give me all of the eye makeup, all of the blush, but like keep it a little more low key as far as the coverage goes. So I'll probably cocktail a bit of moisturizer in with this just to kind of sheer it out. And I'll probably end up using that sponge too. So I'm gonna go ahead and mix this and we'll apply. Oh, and by the way, if you feel like we might be skin twins, usually throughout most of the year, I can use Nars Fiji. In the dead of summer, it's probably a little bit too light, and right now it's a little bit too dark. And then I have NC25 in the MAC. So I've got a little bit of both right here. I'm actually gonna just cocktail in some of this Smashbox primerizer. It just helps like sheer everything out. And now, if you were someone that was in my Live Miss episode where I talked about my goals for 2024, one of them was to use up some of my foundation. So that's kind of why I wanted to pull out this Studio Water Weight. I love the Nars, and I plan on having it in my collection at all times. I actually really love that MAC one too, but I know that one I've had for quite a while, so it's time to use her up. I do also love the fact that both of these are more like satin luminous, so it's not overly glowy, but they do give a nice, like, super hydrated, model off-duty vibe skin. Okay, so that is just a thin layer of that mixture. Everything looks nice and glowy, a little bit more evened out. So now we're gonna kind of take pause and move into the eyes for a little bit. I thought about finishing my face, but honestly, I'm just not sure how blushy I want to get until I do the eyes. And I was like, sometimes I just really like to even out my skin first to then go through and do my eye makeup, since that is usually where I like to focus my look. And I just feel more like myself with a little bit of coverage, but I'm gonna wait on concealer and all of that just in case we get any fallout. I don't think we will, but I plan on doing a little bit of layering. So the palette that I wanted to pull out for today is the Natasha Denona Retro palette. I have just really been in the mood for these burgundy, beautiful tones. It's a little bit more cool toned without being more in that like taupey, dusty realm, which is not usually my realm. But the fact that we have these beautiful burgundies, these berry tones, I think it's very winter appropriate, and it's just something that I think is very flattering with my eye color, so I thought I would do that. But I have a couple fun shades from Divina Cosmetics that I thought I would sort of like layer with, use as an inner corner. So we're gonna pull those out as well, which means there is a little sparkle factor. So in case I do have any fallout, I wanted to be able to clean up this situation and pop some concealer over if need be. Now we're gonna pull out an eye base. If you watched my favorites last month, you'll know that I've really been loving the Prelusion base from Divina Cosmetics. That's gonna be what we use today. So I'm just gonna take a little bit and throw this on a brush, and we'll just tap it right onto the lid. This offers a little bit of coverage, but not much. If I felt like I needed more, I could always go through and do some concealer first. But since I am planning on doing, you know, some decently dark crease work, I don't think it's going to be a problem. I just have some discoloration on my eyes, so if I'm doing anything more like light and ethereal, I like to have a bit more coverage. But we're not going like super deep and vampy, but we're not going to be like light ethereal Starlight Fairy or anything either. Okay, so maybe you can see how that just has a little bit of coverage. I'm gonna do the same on the other eye. And now that I've laid that down with my brush, I do like to just sort of like push it into the skin with my fingers. I just feel like the warmth of my fingers just really lets that kind of like meld in. If you haven't tried this primer, it's actually new from Black Friday. It does have a little bit of a of a feel to it, but it's not super tacky, super grippy. They do have a glitter and like sparkle glue as well. This is just to really help your matte shadows like really be super saturated to make everything last. So to help with blendability, I am going to set this with a little bit of translucent powder, and partially because it's a tried and true, and partially because I'm almost out of it, and I'm gonna feel so victorious when I finally use this one up. I'm using the Hourglass Veiled Translucent. I'm just gonna take a brush here. I've got the Unit 305. I've actually really been enjoying using this for lid powdering and also under eye powdering. So just whisk this on. Anytime I'm using darker mattes, I just really enjoy having a little bit of powder down first. I can always build up those shades a little bit more, but I like having that powder down just to really keep everything super blended, and I don't have to worry about any like skipping or anything like that, especially on my lids as I'm getting older. You know, my skin just moves a little bit more, so every once in a while I get that like and it's easier to buff that out if you have some translucent powder down first. All right, I'm gonna take my Wayne Goss number 3 and go into Amara. It's this warm mauve, I guess I would say. And this is gonna be what I lay down just to sort of outline the shape. This will be my transition shade as well, most likely, but I just want something sort of like mid-tone for this look to really map out the shape. As I mentioned in the intro of this video, you know, when I think of New Year's Eve, like when I think about the makeup that I did in my 20s and my 30s, it would have been very, very vampy, very smoky. I still like that, but I really also like something that just has some nice light and brightness to it too. So I'm trying to find that like middle ground, sort of celebrate some beautiful like sparkle and shimmer, but also have something that's not too much. I mean, I don't necessarily think there is a too much. Wear whatever you want, but I just like something that's more in like that mid-range. So once I place this shade, I'm really fanning out this brush to really get a very blurred look. And I always prefer something that's more like lifted, kind of wings out a little bit. I do have slightly downturned eyes and obviously hooded eyes, so I just find that that's a very flattering shape on me, and it just makes me feel awake, perky. So this way, even if it's 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning on, well, I guess technically that would be New Year's Day, I can still feel a little bit like vibrant and alive. Okay, I'm gonna take this BK Beauty 201 and just pop it into a little bit of Mod. I'm almost using this more as like an eraser or a softener right on my brow bone, and just blending it into the very edge of that previous color. I don't want to use too much of this color because it is more of like a pink undertone. It's gonna look a little like it's gonna look a little funky if I use too much of it on my olive skin. So it's just to kind of brighten everything up. All right, so now this sort of like lays the groundwork for the shaping, and then I can add depth, sparkle, all of those things now that I sort of have the shape that I'm wanting. It's always nice to just sort of like have the framework laid out, and then we can go in with the details. So speaking of the details, let's start with some of those, shall we? I'm actually gonna go in first with my first lid shade and then add some deepening. For me, that just really helps me like blend where the shimmer and the deeper shade live together. I like it very melty. Give me all the melding. So I'm just gonna go through, we'll take this Divina D105 brush, and I'm gonna go into the shade Helio. I do always like to use a damp brush, so I am gonna use MAC Fix Plus to just dampen what's on here. I'm not gonna use a sparkle glue at all. I don't really think it's needed, but I'm just gonna whisk this all over the lid. This is gonna be our base shade. I am, again, like I said, gonna go through with a couple single shadows to sort of add some razzle dazzle. I really like my Natasha Denona palettes, but when I want like shimmer with a capital S, when I'm really wanting that like ba-bam, I just find that the shimmers don't quite shim enough for me. And you know, there are times where I want something a little softer, but there are the times where I want that extra razzle dazzle. And New Year's Eve is when I want the extra razzle dazzle. So we'll top these. And by the way, if you have this palette and you're looking for some inspo, I did do a video with, I think it was actually 3 looks. I can't remember, but I will have the video that I did when I first reviewed this palette linked down below. Okay, so now that I have that lid shade down, Helio is sort of like a rose goldy bronze, I would say. I think it's a very pretty shade, but I'm just gonna take that Wayne Goss brush and just run that through the crease for a second, just to sort of give a first blend. So we have this really nice, rich shade. It's a spicy neutral. I would say it's more of a spicy neutral. So what I'm gonna top over this. And I thought that this would be kind of fun because it would bring like a nice layering aspect. This is Mystic Moon Pie from Divina Cosmetics. It's a very popular shade. You can see it's very popular in my book as well because it actually has a decent dip in the pan. And I'm just gonna put this on top. Now, you could certainly just like tap this on with your finger. Between the fact that I have pretty long nails and the fact that I just don't love touching things with my fingers, I'm gonna use a brush. So I have the Divina D106 here, and I'm just going to tap this over the top of everything. I wear this shade a lot on its own on the lid, but it is actually really pretty to use as a topper shade as well. Ooh, I just got a little bit of fallout because I kind of forgot that I had some foundation on. I sort of went through and was like rubbing quite a bit, which will always give you fallout. But hopefully you can see the difference here. It just adds that little bit of cool tone sparkle and dimension. I can actually zoom you in just a little bit more here. There we go. So this just adds some texture, but isn't too much. So I'm gonna do the other eye and then we'll deepen this look up. Now, as I'm finishing this up, I do want to mention, I saw that Divina is doing a little winter sale right now. So they have things up to 40% off. Okay, I really love this. I think it just looks absolutely beautiful. So now we're gonna deepen this up. I think I'm trying to decide which shade I want to use. I think I'm gonna go through with Groove just because it's a little deeper and a little more into that like nice burgundy. So I'm just gonna use that to sort of deepen up this outer V and the crease right here just to add some extra dimension and more of that like New Year's Eve glam, but still keeping it, you know, right now you could keep this like this and it would be a little bit, I wouldn't say this is light by any means, but not quite as vampy. I want a little vamp and a little lightness. We're gonna keep this balanced. Now, this Groove shade a little bit goes a very long way. So I'm just tapping my bristles in and then working that in. All right, now I'm gonna take that original fluffy Wayne Goss brush and again, run right along the edge of that. I'm always going through and just like blend, almost in between each step, just to really keep it nice and seamless. And I know that we've probably all heard this, but if you do have a hooded eye, or pretty much anybody, make sure that you aren't applying your eyeshadow like this because you're gonna end up with a completely different shape than if you just relax your face. For me, because of my hood, I really need to make sure to do that. There's nothing more frustrating than taking time to like really get a beautiful blend and a gradient, and then you like drop and your hood covers up all of that work. Okay, now I'm just going to clean up, and I want this, when I'm looking straight in the mirror, I want this to really align with my corner of my eye and just sort of go up, because that way I'm not like dragging my eyes down. A lot of times, especially, you know, as we get older and gravity starts to take over, we get a little bit of slack skin here. And oftentimes I see people doing their makeup and it's like their shadow is coming down so far, which means that your eyes are gonna look like downturned a little bit. So I just wanna make sure to keep everything really nice and lifted. I'm gonna clean up any fallout, pop on some concealer. I'm gonna go through with the Haus Labs Triclone, which I know Colin likes as well. And then we're going to finish up the eye and then we'll move on to the rest of the face. Oh, by the way, the shade that I'm using is 10 Light Golden in the Triclone concealer. I also have, I think it's 13, which is a neutral shade, and it's just a little bit deeper. This one is said to work for warm and olive undertones, and I wanted something just a little bit lighter for the winter time. And honestly, I mean, I'm not going back to the days of like heavy concealer and all of that like major highlighting, and I don't mean shiny highlighting, I mean like bright, almost white, you know, detailing here. But I do like a little bit, it just feels fresher and it feels more lifted having something that's a little bit lighter right there. So I'm fine having just a bit of brightness. And then I always almost reverse contour my nose rather than adding a contour with a darker shade. I usually just take a little and pop it right down the center. It gives me a bit more coverage on my red nose, and it's a lot easier and softer looking than doing a contour on the nose. So it's just one of my little like time-saving hacks. And before I move on to finishing the rest of the eye, I am gonna set my concealer. I'm going through with the Charlotte Tilbury Airbrush Flawless Finish, and I do have the lightest shade Fair. I think it's the lightest. It says 1, so I don't think they make a 0. I'm just going to set under the eye and probably down the center of my nose. And since this powder is a bit lighter, again, it just sort of like brightens everything. I mean, this is not like Kim Kardashian 2018 or anything like that. It is brighter, but not too much. The other thing I'm gonna do is throw through my brow gel just so that my brows have a lot of time to set before I go through and add some color to them. So I'm gonna use the Linda Hallberg Infinity Power Brows. So this brow gel was gifted to me for Christmas by my friend Liz. We've been talking about this one for a while. I think she uses a tinted one. I love a good strong brow gel, and she said that her tinted one is like super glue. I was like, yes, please. So this will be the second time using this, and I just didn't pay enough attention. I feel like I liked it the last time, but I was like, oh, yeah, as I was washing off my face, I was like, I didn't really actually pay attention to how long that lasted. So I'm just going through, and I am gonna do a more wispy brow today. I just love the look of a wispy lifted brow. So we're gonna go for that. Try not to get it too heavy. Famous last words. We're gonna let the brows dry. Before I move on, I'm gonna take the brush that I put that mod, that really light shade on. It's almost like essentially a clean brush, right? So I wanna just soften out this edge where I added the concealer. I don't want it quite so crisp. I want it crisp, but I don't need it to be like, you know, just a little bit of softness. So I'm just gonna blend that out a smidge. Now we can do the lower lash line. I love a good smoky lash line, especially when it's like a special event. I'm probably gonna go through and use that deepest shade with a very tiny brush and just wiggle it into the lashes. So we're gonna take the teeny tiny little D101 brush into that shade Groove. I wanna start with a small brush to lay this product down. I can always move to a bigger pencil brush to buff it out if needed, but it's a lot easier to do more buffing and widen a shape than it is to like start with a big brush and just have to do it so delicately. So I'm just gonna almost use this, not like a push liner, but just really delicately work this into the lash line. All right, for some extra drama, I have taken that all the way in, at least almost all the way in. And again, you'll see I sort of rounded this out and made the spot right here a little lower. And then that actually, you know, in comparison, it makes this look more lifted. So I'm gonna do the same on the other side, and then we're gonna do some tight lining. All right, actually before moving into the tight lining, I'm gonna take a slightly bigger brush, and I'm just gonna go into the shade Go-Go right here. It's almost more of like a satin with a little bit more warmth. I'm gonna use that to just buff out the very edge of the Groove shade that we just did on the lower lash line, just to, again, sort of have a gradient and soften that very edge. But a little bit will go a long way, and just very light pressure. I don't want this to get too out of hand. I don't know if you can see the difference. It's pretty slight, but I feel like I can see it. So it just softens that out a little bit more. It's really flattering, and it just looks, again, a little bit more blurred. And I can choose to take that same pencil with that shade on there and just run right along the edge of where I sharpened up that shape to give, again, just like a little bit of blur on the edge. It's just that tiny step that really makes all the difference. All right, so now to add a bit more drama, and honestly, to just separate this reddish color from the whites of my eyes, I'm gonna go through and tight line with a black liner. I'm gonna go through, what do I have out right now? Let's go ahead and go through with the Urban Decay 24/7 Waterline pencil. I don't even know if they make this anymore. It really lasts a very long time. You know, we know that Urban Decay pencils, they tend to last quite a while. So I'm just really quickly gonna run this through on the lower lashes and the uppers. I'll be back. Right, I think that makes a big difference. It just helps add some definition to the lash line. And again, like I said, it helps separate that red color from your eyes to help keep your eyes from looking like you have pink eye. You just need that grounding a little bit. Now, back in the day, I probably would have added a pretty dramatic liner with a wing. I'm just not all about that anymore. I want as much space as possible to be left to show the beautiful shimmer on the lid, but I do love a good thick coating or several coats of mascara, so I'm gonna go ahead and do that. Honestly, right now, I don't have a mascara that I'm like, oh my gosh, I absolutely love that. I actually have some of the Bite Beauty Upswing still left. That's probably gonna be what I use just because I do love that one so much. So I'll curl my lashes and put a couple coats on. We might do a lash, but I haven't decided yet. Okay, 2 quick coats of mascara on. I did go through with my Bite Beauty. Please tell me if you have a really good volumizing but not too chunky mascara. Preferably it doesn't have a wand that's the size of a baseball bat. I would really love to find a mascara that I love as much as this one, rest in peace. On my lower lashes, I went through with the original telescopic mascara from L'Oreal. This is a waterproof version. If I'm gonna be out for a really long day, not that I tend to get much, you know, smudging or flaking, just as insurance, I do like to use a little bit of waterproof mascara on my lower lash line. It's not very often that I use waterproof mascara, but On New Year's Eve, I probably would. I can't decide if I'm gonna do a lash or not. So I think what we'll do is we're gonna go through and do the rest of the face, and then I'll see if it's warranted. I might decide to just pop on a couple on the outer edges, but we're gonna throw on some brows. I'm just gonna do this really quick because I've talked about this a lot. I'm gonna go through with the Glossier Brow Flick, add in some hairs really quick. I'm not gonna do a brow powder first or anything. I just want these to look really wispy. Okay, brows are done. Lots of definition, but more wispy than blocky. I used to love a good block brow, a good super dramatic block brow. Didn't we all? So now I'm gonna go through and do an inner corner. New Year's Eve is the time to have a ba-bam inner corner, I feel like. Like I want a lot of sparkle, brightness, something with some punch. I'm gonna go through with Divina Aylin. You cannot get this anymore. A lot of the Halo Moons shadows have been discontinued, sadly, because they can't get the pigments anymore. This is a beauty. It just has this really beautiful pink shift. And also I see a lot of like pink and almost like a little bit of greeny yellow. So I'm gonna pop that on my inner corner. I'm just gonna use a dry brush. I want it dramatic, but I don't want it like solid. So I'm actually just gonna take this Refer 12 brush and just like give myself a really good stamp of some bright, fun inner light. Oh yeah, that just gives it a little something. It's, you know, not like classic glam. It gives it that little bit of like indie multi-chrome flair. To be honest, I probably could have concealed my darkness just a little bit better on the inner corner here, but that is okay. Yeah, so pretty. I love this shade so much. All right, now let's finish up the face. So I feel like now I can kind of see like how much blush I want to put on, how much bronzer. I don't think I'm going to do a crazy ton of bronzing. I just want a little bit of shaping. I know I talked about wanting to use up a lot of what I have. We're going to pull out the Fenty Cheeks Out Cream Bronzer in Butter Biscuit. I've been using this one quite a bit recently just so that I can kind of get through this. This is probably one of the bronzers that I've had for the longest, so I feel like it's one that I need to use up. But the undertone of this really has a nice neutral, almost like a little bit cool undertone. It's more neutral, but I feel like I can use this as kind of like a bronzer. In the wintertime, I just feel silly if I start to look too much like bronze goddessy. It's like I'm not fooling anybody. You know, like especially because I'm not one to take the time to self tan very often unless I really have something special going on. But you know, here in Wisconsin in the wintertime, I'm wearing so much clothing that it's not like you're really gonna see a lot of what's down here anywhere, you know, like maybe my wrist to my hands, which always is a little lighter anyway. So if my face is too bronzed up, it just feels weird. It just feels weird to me. So for me, it's just really about like a soft contour, a little bit of bronzing, just kind of giving the face some shape. Okay, I think we're gonna do a bit of blush layering. I wanna lay down a cream first to give us a bit of color, and then I'll go over with a powder over the top. I love a good blushy moment. I feel like with the shades that we have on the eyes, I don't wanna go too crazy, but I do love a good blushy moment. So I'm gonna pull this one out. This is from Merit. This is the shade Beverly Hills. It's a nice, again, like kind of like a warmy mauve. It's mauvey, but it's not cool tone. So I think this is gonna be pretty. I'll pop this on with the Refer 4 brush. Oh, by the way, the brush that I was using just now was a Larifay, but I don't think you can get that one in anymore. So it makes me really sad. That's my favorite. So we're just gonna pop, ooh, yeah, see, look, that's pretty. It's very, very pretty. I'm gonna take a little bit like lower onto the cheek. Oh yeah, I'm really liking this. I've been all about just wearing a little bit more blush on the apples of the cheeks. I don't care if it makes my face look more round. I just wanna see the blush. I just want to see the blush. So I think what I'm gonna do first before I go over with the powder blushes, I'm actually gonna go through with a liquid highlight. I just haven't been highlighting a lot, but in the wintertime, I like a little bit of that glow, and what better night to highlight than New Year's Eve, right? So I pulled out two. I pulled out Rare Beauty Transcend, and then also this Wet n Wild Hello Halo in Halo Goodbye. I put this in my fall Shop My Stash and just did not use it enough. I'm just wondering if it's a little too icy. I'm gonna swatch both of these out on my hand. They're both very liquidy and honestly both very metallic. I can probably dab from the swatches on my hand and end up with enough color to put on my cheeks. These are both pretty strong. So you can see there, the deeper one is the Rare Beauty and the lighter is the Wet n Wild. I feel like the lighter one is a little too light, but I feel like this is too dark. You know what? Let's just mix them. We got them here. Got them here, and let's just, ooh, yeah, that's a pretty color right there. Okay, perfect. So I'll just pop this on with my fingers. I'm just wanting that little bit of extra glisten. Both of these products, if you've ever, especially, I think a lot of people have used the Rare Beauty one, and it can get very, very molten very fast. I do not want, oh, where did that little blotch come from? I do not want like rose gold Tin Man vibes. I mean, as much fun as that sounds like, it's just not really my vibe. I just want that little extra glisten. I'm gonna throw a little on my Cupid's bow. Okay, so that's the combination of those two right there. Very pretty. So now to set all of this down and just add a little bit more glow, I'm actually gonna go over the top with Crystal Slipper in the RMS Redimension Hydra Blushes. So just with a very loose brush to add a bit, I'll go through with the Wayne Goss one brush from the Edit collection. We're just gonna sweep a little of this on, thinking of it almost like the Hourglass ambient lighting powder, something that's got a little bit more color than those do, but about the same finish. And then this is just gonna like set this down and make it look more like a, you know, like a natural glow rather than I put highlight on. Pretty. And then that's a blush that's going to last all night long. It's a lot of blush. It's a lot of blush on, but I don't care. I love a blush. Okay, so now for lips. So on a night where I'm probably gonna be eating, drinking, doing all the things, I just want something that's gonna be really easy to apply. So most likely I will grab a very easy to use gloss and start out the night with lip liner on, and honestly, I just won't give a damn if the lip liner wears off, but I can quickly grab the gloss out of my pocket, out of my pocketbook. I'm evidently 80 and I actually say the word pocketbook, out of my clutch. You know what I'm saying? And then that would be what I would touch up with for the rest of the night. So what I pulled out to use today is actually an old school product. This is a Juicy Tube from Lancome. And I know that these went away for a while. I loved these when they were first out, and then they went away, and now they're back again. This is the shade Magic Spell. It's a really pretty, slightly shimmery shade. I want a little bit of a shimmer, but oh, you're probably not even gonna be able to see the shimmer here on my hand. Yeah, you really can't, which to me is like the shimmer that I want, because it's gonna give me a luminosity to my lips. It's gonna make my lips look really nice and juicy, but it's not gonna be like super frost. So this is gonna be what I wear. I'm trying to decide what lip liner I wanna use. Okay, I'm gonna use the Lisa Eldridge in the shade Blush Lightly. This is going to be like a My Lips but deeper, give me a bit of enhancement, but not be so different from my lips that if it does start to wear off, it's gonna look wonky. We don't want that. So I'm gonna pop this on. I'll show you before I put on the gloss. And I honestly just did the very outline of my lips and then just kind of like blended it in to sort of like mesh everything. I don't want it like a complete line, but I also don't want to fill in my entire lip, because honestly, the gloss would sort of break that down anyway. So I sort of want to see what it's going to be like and how it will live on the lips without the gloss on there, because anything that would be here would wear off anyway. Also, if I'm going to be wearing a gloss, I don't tend to overline very much. I don't tend to overline a lot anyway, but because that starts to wear off, I don't want to have that like past my lip line and then, you know, at like 1 a.m. have it be like, hi, I overlined my lips today and now the rest of it has worn off. Sort of like Cinderella, your carriage is now a pumpkin, right? Like we don't want that. So keeping pretty natural. I do tend to define my Cupid's bow just a tiny bit more. I love a good defined Cupid's bow, so I can't help myself there, but we'll just top this gloss right over the top. That looks really pretty. If you can't tell, I am absolutely okay. Well, first of all, I'm absolutely okay evidently applying lip gloss and talking at the same time. That's rude and also dangerous. But what I was going to say is I'm absolutely okay with mixing cool tones and warm tones. I absolutely feel like you can be wearing a cool toned eye with a warm lip or vice versa. I think there just needs to be sort of like a cohesive vibe. So this is a bit on the warmer side and I think it still looks great. It's just not overly cool tone. I'm gonna zoom you out actually just a bit. so that we can see here. Like I think especially because the blush color kind of pulls it in. So I think this is absolutely well balanced. Let me know in the comments down below. Are you one that it's like, if I'm wearing a cool toned eye, I have to wear a cool toned lip? Or are you like mix and match like me? I'd be really curious to know. So this is our final look. Do I want a lash? I kind of do, but I don't think that it's necessary. I just really don't. I thought about just popping a couple on the outer edge, but I feel like because of the shape we did with the eye makeup, honestly, it almost looks like I've got like a lot more lash on just because the outer corner just sort of makes it look like that. I love this. Honestly, this is something that I would wear any day, but it's something that would make me feel very confident on New Year's Eve. It's got a little bit of sparkle. I love the bright inner corner, and it's just a look and a shape that I feel confident in. And for me these days, that's really what it's all about. So I hope you enjoyed getting to see this look. I cannot wait to see what Colin picks for their look. So again, that video will be linked down below, and please let me know in the comments what you plan on wearing for New Year's Eve if you're gonna be wearing makeup. And what are you doing for New Year's Eve? Something fun? I'd love to know. Let me live vicariously through you. All right, lovelies, that's it for today. Please, if you did enjoy this video, don't forget to give it a like. It really does help me out. And of course, as always, I appreciate you taking some time out of your day to spend it here with me, and I will see you very soon. Happy New Year.